Okay, here we go. Had a little bit of a technical glitch there when we, I guess I needed to refresh the screen from earlier today. So now we're rolling finally. How's it going, everyone? Good to see you out there. Today is another Thursday. Last week I had to put a little bit of a hiatus because I was taking an online conference that was taking, it pretty much ran from Tuesday to Thursday and was pretty much all day long. And since it was West Coast based, it was like 3 hours later. So while they were starting at 8 o'clock, we were starting here at 11, and so it would run until like 10 at night. And so the last day was Thursday, so that's why we weren't able to do this last week. I totally kind of joined onto the conference a little bit later, towards the end of the month of August, after we had started and set the schedule for this. But we're back now, and that's good. So as you can see, Rusty, as you said, the tux is on. But why the tux? The tux is because tonight's cigar is the World Championship cigar from Rocky Patel, and basically it's the, what is it called? Cigar Smoking World Championship, and it's based out of Croatia. It's been running for 10 years now. And what can we say about it? It's been running for 10 years. There's this guy by the name of, let me look at my notes. Marko Bilic. And Marko Bilic is the founder and organizer of a place called the Cigar Club Mareva I think it's in Split, Croatia. And evidently in Croatia, there was no real cigar scene. So he was really interested in starting a cigar scene. So I guess he built a cigar club and then started this cigar championship. And it's kind of an interesting thing. I first heard about this, I think back in May during on one of the Cigar Authority podcasts. And they were talking about hosting a local qualifying event in New Hampshire. I believe they were going to do it in August because I think it had to be earlier. Maybe I heard it earlier. Anyways, they were going to have the qualifying round, or maybe it was even earlier this year. Maybe the qualifying round was going to be in May, and the World Championship was supposed to be at the end of August. So maybe I heard about this in January. Maybe it was January. And the idea behind the World Smoking Championship is you're supposed to take this cigar, which is actually like a petite Corona, and you're supposed to smoke it at a very slow rate. So whoever's the slowest wins. You know, when I first heard about a cigar smoking championship, I figured that you get the big cigar, the most powerful cigar, and whoever smokes it the fastest wins. You know, that just seems to be a little bit more competitive. But evidently, these guys decided that they're going to have a very small cigar, and you're going to smoke it very slowly. And there's actually a ton of rules that are accompanying the championship. And I just found out they also have a judges association for this. So part of me is thinking, maybe I should apply to be one of their judges and maybe judge in places like Azerbaijan, where so they've got a whole bunch of competitions or qualifying rounds around the world, and then at the end of the season, all of the national champions, or I guess maybe the qualifying champions, and I say that because of some countries like the United States and I believe the United Kingdom have multiple qualifying rounds. So I believe that all the qualifiers, the winners of the qualifying rounds, will go to the finals and compete there, representing their country. But before we get too much into that, let's brew coffee first. Today's coffee is since we're smoking cigars, Esteli. This is a coffee that we developed to pair with cigars. So it's got really nice chocolatey notes, a little bit of fruitiness, a lot of nuttiness, slight amounts of spice that I think go really, really well with most cigars. As you may know, we do the Fratello blend that we do there's a Fratello coffee that we do for Fratello cigars. And that's really, really geared towards their red line. That was where we started in 2013. And then as time went by, decided to try another blend that would be a little bit more generally oriented to a wider range of cigars. And as you may have noticed, this week we are in a different location. We're actually in the actual roastery for Spro. This is the roasting machine behind me. This is what's called a Petroncini the Crumb, and it's a 3-kilo roaster that is direct flame, cast iron drum, and it's pretty old. It's like maybe early 1980s, late 1970s. So we've done some modifications to it. It's a great little roaster. We do all of our roasting on it, unless we do large batches. Then I actually contract with a friend of mine to use their roaster. But most everything that we roast is done here. So I tried to spruce it up a little bit and make it look nice. All right, so we're going to brew today. This time we're going to brew with the French press. And this particular one is the Bodum Chambord 17-ounce French press. And there's something about the Europeans, these Bodum guys, the Scandinavians, they like to do these weird sizes. You know, there is a 12-ounce, which is smaller, but this one, the medium, the moderate one is 17. Then I think the next one is 31. And then the next one is 52. So we would normally, in America, we would have, of course, 12, 16, 32, and 48. Well, they do it differently in Scandinavia. So, but it is probably of all of the French presses, I think this is the most solid of them all. I think that it's a very simple design. You know, you've got this metal cage, glass beaker. What is that stuff they use in the beakers? Something silicon, whatever. And it withstands the heat, withstands the drastic temperature drops. And then there's a top fork that has a metal mesh filter. Most of the other French presses in the world are kind of knockoffs of this, but this is, I believe, one of the more original ones. I've used them now for 18 years, off and on. I mean, well, 18 years of different, not the same one, but basically, if you break the glass, you buy another glass and you slide it in. So if you ever get these, don't throw the metal away when you break the glass, because you can always get more. So it's a great thing. And we're going to use 24 grams of the Esteli. I already ground it. It was ground in a Barazza Virtuoso grinder here at the other part of the shop. Get our water here. And we're going to set a timer for 4 minutes. Is that true? Yeah, 4 minutes. And just go at it. We're going to add water to fully hydrate the coffee to allow for the bloom. The nice thing about the French press that I like is that it's a very simple way of brewing. A lot of people ask me, well, how do you brew at home? What's your favorite way to brew? And I don't necessarily have a favorite way, but when I'm making coffee at home, typically I'm making it for breakfast. And I don't really make coffee at home very often, but when I'm in the mood for it and I'm making breakfast, I do want to plate everything together. So let's say if I'm making eggs and maybe sausage and maybe toast or even French toast or something like that, as I'm preparing the food, I want to plate everything and serve it at the same time because I want everything to be hot. I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm going to finish the bacon and finish the eggs and put them aside and then I'm going to brew the coffee. No, I don't like that. And so with a lot of these different brew methods like AeroPress or pour over or many of those other ones, there's a lot of attention to detail and you have to like take the time. Okay, so now that we've had about 40 seconds, I'm just going to pour the rest and break it down the top. Some people like to stir. I tend not to stir. I tend not to stir because I think that you can use the water flow to recombine the coffee that's floating. And then I'll put the top, just snug the top on and push the mesh slightly into the coffee just to fully saturate, and then line up the strainer, right? There's a strainer on here. So line that up with the pouring spout, and then we just wait for the rest of the 4 minutes. But like I was saying, when I'm doing this, and hold on 1 second. Sorry. So when I'm doing this at home and I'm preparing the food, what I want to do is have everything played together. And so I just want to adjust that window there. So I want to be pouring the coffee. I want to plate and pour and be done, and then get on to the eating, right? So the French press, because once you add the water, it's pretty much 3.5 minutes and you don't have to do anything. So as we're getting closer, I would have already ground the grounds and put them in the French press. And as we're coming up to the plating point while we're cooking, then I'll add the water, put the tap on, and let it run, so that and they hit the timer, then by the time the timer's finishing, I should have everything plated and going to the table. And that makes me very happy. So we're here waiting. Another 45 seconds. I guess I should have asked, does it sound and look all right out there, Rusty? Are we doing all right? I can never tell on this end. Okay, great. Glad to hear it. All right, so there it is. We are ready now. And if you've got everything lined up, you just pour and it's all good. Easy peasy. Now the downside with the French press, I think, is the washing. And the washing is a little bit difficult because of the mesh filter. You kind of have to unscrew it and to really get it clean and get all the particulates out of it. But it's very convenient. So let's see how it is. Ooh, still hot, but ooh, some of that nice light fruitiness is coming through. Ooh, good. All right, so let's go back. So why the tux? The tux, because if you look online and you see the pictures from this Cigar Smoking World Championship, especially the Croatia event, the finals event, they're all wearing tuxes. It's a very formal event. So since this is the World Championship cigar, I thought we should wear the tux. We're gonna smoke, we're gonna wear tux. I don't get to do this in normal life. I mean, meaning wearing tux and smoking. So we're gonna do that tonight. All right, but let's okay, let's get the cigar. So the cigar tonight I picked these up and bought them, paid my own money from Tobacco Leaf in Jessup, Maryland. And so for all the cigars that I use in the show, we actually buy. So none of them are given to us. Well, actually, one of them was, but that was by the tobacconist, by Yasser. Last week, I think the stolen crown, one of the stolen thrones, was given to me by him. Okay, so, but we buy them all at full retail, and yeah, and no, there's whatever the blah 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 part is, there's no sponsorship or anything. So this is the Rocky Patel, right? I don't know if that's coming through very well. There we go. So this is the Rocky Patel World Championship Mareva. And Mareva is not just the name of Marko Bilic's cigar club, it's also the name of a Vitola, which is essentially a Petit Corona. It's a 5 and 1/8 by 42 cigar. So it's pretty small. I mean, the world championship the world champion from last year, let me look at my notes here, but the world champion from last year, he's from Russia. 2-time world champion. His name is Oleg Pedan. He smoked, okay, so before I say that, so Rocky Patel just started doing their cigar this year. Evidently, for the previous 9 years, they were using another cigar, or I'm not sure how many other cigars, but they were all of this same size, 5 1/8 by 42. So the size has remained the same, just the manufacturer that they're using has changed. But last year, Oleg Pedan from Russia took the world title by smoking this in 3 hours and 26 minutes. For this is going to be a bit of a challenge because I could take a Toro and smoke that in an hour. So to smoke this and try to make it last as long as possible, that's going to be quite a challenge. Yeah, it's a little bit crazy. But let's go over a little bit about the cigar. I'm going to look at the notes again. So it's made by Rocky Patel, and it is a Mexican San Andres wrapper with a Nicaraguan binder and a Nicaraguan and Honduran filler. Of course, no real specification beyond that. It's made by Rocky's Tabacalera Villa de Cuba in Nicaragua. And the MSRP is $8.75. I believe with Maryland's tax and everything, it's probably closer to $10. I think maybe it was over $10. So here's the interesting thing. Here's the thing. Oh, Rusty, you're very true. I should brew more coffee. We're going to go for it. I'm actually talking a lot because, what if I finish this in 20 minutes? Then we just go home? I'm dressed all nice. All right. So Rocky Patel, Rocky Patel is an interesting cigar manufacturer in my small world here of cigar friends. And most of my friends in our group of cigar smokers, we don't really smoke Rocky Patels normally. In fact, Rocky Patel kind of has a more of a negative connotation in our world. Like it's a lot of different cigars, many different brands, many different sizes. A lot of them are cheap. A lot of them are sold at discount online by big bundle sellers. And so in my group of cigar smoker friends, Rocky Patel doesn't have really the cachet that a lot of these other manufacturers have. But, it is what it is. I'm not trying to bash on anyone, but that's just the reality. And so, we tend to avoid Rocky Patel as a general rule. But several of the tobacconists that I've met over the last maybe year or so, a couple of them have been very much like, oh, have you tried Rocky Patel? And, I'll be honest, we give them the kind of look like, are you kidding? Really? We just told you we're smoking Tatuai, we're smoking Roma Craft, we're smoking these, and you're telling us Rocky Patel? To me, there was I would have a disconnect with that tobacconist. It's like, what are you talking about? That's just not along the line of what we're talking about here. The last Rocky Patel that I did have was the 52 one for Ray Lewis that he did, and that was pretty good. Of course, I smoked that. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, so Ray Lewis, yeah, I'm going to give it a try. I had one. It was good. I never bought one again. So maybe that says a lot, right? But, some of these tobacconists were like, hey, maybe you should revisit. He's making some nice cigars. And, I'd probably rude, but I would tell them, well, it's not really quite to my liking overall. And so they were like, well, I know that even they would acknowledge that, there's been some, reputation about it, and maybe there's a couple that are really good, so give them a try. And so I never, if I'm at a tobacconist, I'm spending money, I'm buying what I want. I'm buying what I know, right? I'm buying what I think will give me the most pleasure. And typically Rocky Patel never comes to mind. So I would never do that. Especially if the tobacconist that I'm visiting, like we were at this place in Virginia early this summer and picking up Romacraft, and these guys had lots of different Romacraft stuff that we don't see here in Baltimore. So we're like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Let's grab more. And that tobacconist was like, hey, have you thought about Rocky Patel? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not thinking about that. This is what I'm here for. These mastodons, we're taking those, right? And these Revengers, we're taking more of those as well. So, but the idea of doing Rocky has kind of always been in the back of my mind. And since people were talking, since some of these tobacco comments, I'm not one that's just like, okay, well, I haven't enjoyed some of these, so we're just dismissing it completely. I'm willing to give it a try, And so I was just looking for the right opportunity at the right time. So when I went to buy this round of cigars for the show, and I was at Tobacco Leaf, I was asking Yasser, I said, hey, what Rocky should I try, man? I mean, like, what do you think I would like? Because quite frankly, I was nervous. I was like, I don't know if I have the trust in the brand and but based on my previous experience with the cigars to really want to explore, but I want to give it a fair shake. I want to be open-minded to trying it. So Yasser made a couple recommendations, but then he was like, well, we also have this World Championship cigar. And I remembered the World Championship from the Cigar Authority earlier this year. And I know that I thought at the time it was pretty limited release. And I was like, well, if that's the case, I want to try that. I'll give that a try because that seems really, really interesting, really, really unique. And I'm looking very forward to trying this. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's get into it. If you look down in the description below, in the show notes, you'll see there's also a link to the rules of the competition. And the rules, man, there's a lot of rules. So let's go through some of the rules because I think they're quite interesting. Rule number 1, all participants receive the same cigar. Got it? In the defense of a cigar is chosen. So basically they walk around with a box of these cigars and you choose your cigar out of it, right? Rule number 2, each participant will be given a cigar cutter. Oh no, we'll use this one. Cigar cutter and a box with 2 long matches. Well, I decided not to use that. I'm going to use a lighter. But instead of the big Jet G4000, that's not working right now. There we go. Instead of the big gun, I'm going to use a little soft flame lighter. The competition table may only contain items provided by the organizer. Yes, I'm the organizer and I provided all this, the coffee and everything. Good. Participants can choose to light the cigar using one or both matches. It is not permitted to light the cigar before the competition officially starts. The judge will provide a clear signal when the cigars are to be lit. Oh, that must be interesting. Participants have a maximum of 1 minute to light their cigar. So you have once the judge says smoke, you then only have 1 minute to light your cigar with the 2 matches. Can they drink anything? I guess we're coming up to that. So I'm gonna see. Like Al was talking about in the pipe when they couldn't drink for what 40 minutes or some craziness like that. I couldn't last that. Additional preparation of cigars not permitted. During the rule number 3, during the competition, it is not permitted to relight the cigar. So if it goes out, you're done. During the competition, it is not permitted to blow on the embers of the cigar, blow through the cigar, or to wet the cigar. Oh gosh, man, you know what I mean? Like blowing on the cigar sometimes helps keep that cherry that lit. During the first 5 minutes, participants are not permitted. Oh, there we go. You may not talk or consume beverages for the first 5 minutes. Oh. It is not permitted to put down the cigar. Cigar has to be kept in the participant's hand during the whole competition. So I can't put this. Wow, that guy held on to his cigar for 3 hours and 26 minutes. Number 4, the cigar is smoked through to the competition band. So if the competition band is burned, the participant will be fined 15 penalty points, 15 penalty minutes. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you can only smoke to right up to the band, the edge of the band, and then you're done. You can't take the band off. You can't burn the band. So the champion, so if this is what, 5 1/8 inch, that's like an inch. He smoked 4 inches in 3 hours and 26 minutes. What? Who are these Russian guys? They're just monsters. They're just machines. Just machines. All right, let's see. Rule number 5. Keeping the cigar ash gives a slow burning advantage to the participant. Oh, so I guess you're saying you want to keep the ash as long as you can. Once the first ash has fallen or been shaken off the cigar, the participant will be deducted the following. So if you lose the ash in the first 10 minutes, you will be penalized 20 minutes. If it's within the first 20 minutes, you'll be penalized 15, and 25, 10, 30, 5, 35, 3 minutes, and the first 40 minutes of the competition, 1 minute. So if you can wait until 40 minutes and then ash your cigar, no points deducted. Oh, hardcore. For every cigar ash that is disposed in the ashtray within the first 40 minutes of competition, 10 penalty minutes will be deducted. Wait a minute, does that mean then that if you ash, you'll be penalized for the ashing plus a penalty for the ash in the ashtray? Good Lord, that's crazy. If the cigar band is burned, 15 penalty minutes will be deducted. Oh, okay. So after 40 minutes, it reiterates, after 40 minutes, participants are permitted to shake off the ash without incurring penalty minutes. Okay. So if they go to Churchill size, it will be the 24. That would be kind of impressive. Maybe like the A size would be, that would be insane. Insane. Rule number 6. Cigar smoking ends at the exact moment when the participant lifts his or her number, and in that moment, his or her smoking time. So I guess whenever you decide you're done, right before you burn the band, you lift up your number, and that is the end of your competition. This happens, okay, so this also happens in 2 possible cases: if the cigar goes out by itself and when the band limit has been reached. Oh, I guess when either of those 2 happens, that's when you pull up the number. When finished smoking, the participant is required to leave. So when you're finished, you got to get out. I guess you just can't sit there and heckle your fellow competitors. The competition is led by 2 judges, 1 main and 1 assistant. 1 judge leads the competition for a maximum of 20 participants. In the event that there are more than 2 judges for a competition, 1 judge is assigned as the main judge, and the others are appointed assistant judges. Participants are required to report to whether their ash falls off a cigar, as well as if the cigar is extinguished, blah, 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 blah. We'll forget about that. Judges can disqualify a participant if she does not respect the rules or disturbs other participants. The main judge will inform participants of the time after the first minute and every 10 minutes after that. When the competition ends, judges will inspect the bands of the participants' cigars to determine whether they have been burned. The competition report contains a time record, including the penalty minutes. It is responsibility of the main judge. The winner of this competition is the person who smokes the cigar for the longest time without having to relight it. Essentially, the winner of the competition is the person whose smoking time is the longest after penalty minutes have been taken into consideration. So, evidently, you can have penalties and still win. Not bad. All right, let's. And then I don't know why I brought the ashtray. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, before we begin, let me get this jacket off. We're got to get serious now. Can't drink any beverages until 5 minutes have passed either. I guess you can't talk during the competition. I wonder. All right, so we're going to cut the cigar. And since I'm wearing a tux and my very James Bond looking self, I decided to go with some fancy accoutrements today. This is the Paul Garmirian Sheffield Steel. It's going to focus. There we go. Sheffield Steel single blade surgical steel from Sheffield, England cutter. I don't use this as much as my friend Tony does. Like, I hardly ever use this, mainly because they don't make these anymore. They're very hard to come by, and I'm paranoid about it. So I almost never use it, which means it's very sharp. So we're going to take the cigar. We're going to put it like this. God, I can't see. All this dramatic lighting, and I can't see a darn thing. All right, we're going to shave it right off. I'm probably cutting it all messed up, but you can see it. Oh, that's smooth like, oh, I totally messed that up. All right. Disqualification has already occurred. But it's such a sharp blade that even if I have to cut it again without the full cap, man, it's super. It's super clean. It's just not super straight. Maybe that's my battle strategy for this competition. What does that do for the spit cup? Yeah, I don't know what that does. I guess I can't. I guess I got to swallow. Probably the wrong thing to say. All right, so let's have a look. This is the World Championship. Come on, focus. There we go. Nice looking wrapper, right? Looks pretty good. Well, I should have manicured my nails more. A little bit veiny. Look at that right there. A little bit veiny. Oh, what's that oil? Is that oil? What's going on there? Maybe a slight patch of oil. So it's got a nice orange band, which has Cigar Smoking World Championship, Rocky Patel. Rocky loves the orange accents on his labels. And then this little orange ribbon at the foot of the cigar, that doesn't want to come off. Okay. All right, excellent. Oh, kind of hay, barn, leather. Am I getting the same? So the question is, am I getting the same results as our friends at, what's it called? At Half Wheel. Half Wheel says, let's see what Half Wheel says. So Half Wheel scored this 91 back in April 2020. Earth, raisin, cigar, cedar, peanuts, dark chocolate. I don't get those things. Maybe the dark chocolate, but really it's very barny, very leather, very hay, kind of manure, but not in an unpleasant way. kind of a warm, earthy, reassuring kind of way, you know, like the dry manure, not the wet, kind of like really ripe. Not that. All right, let's taste. Oh, strange. There's a slight sweetness, but there's this. What is the flavor? Dare I say azuki beans? Azuki beans with jackfruit? Oh, that's freaky. That's freaky. It's a flavor that I've tasted in like Filipino cuisine that it's quite, to my palate, it's quite reassuring, quite comforting. So the cold draw, a little bit tight, but I would expect that to loosen up once it gets lit. Like if I feel here, like right here, it feels slightly tighter, right? Well, maybe, you know, you might word it a little bit naughty, but down here, this part here, not bad. Feels about right. So it does feel a little bit tight. Slightly salty. So get flavors in the cold draw. Maybe a little bit of pepper, like right here. Pepper, black pepper, some leather. Speaking of spit cup, oh man, I'm gonna run out of time. I better start the timer. All right, start the timer. Man, I'm already past the minute. I'm all talking. Haven't started the lighting. So for today's lighting, I'm using the Alfred Dunhill Ultimate Cigar Lighter. This is a lighter that I've had for, let's have a look at it. I've had this, oh gosh, 25 years. This is a lighter that I thought was always just so gorgeous, and I always wanted it. And so I was in San Francisco, probably like 1994, 1995, and I went to the Alfred Dunhill store in Post Street downtown, and they had this on half-price sale. Man, that was a happy, happy day. Happy day. So it's a nice little one. You know, let's get it closer. Mm. Mm. You kind of flick it up, roll, and it lights. So let's light it. Oh, I can't do that. Good Lord. You can't blow on the light because maybe it means you're disqualified. I probably should have reached out to some of these guys on YouTube or something to ask them for strategies on how to. Should I smoke it hard to get it rolling? Yeah, Tony's asking about that spit cup. Man, I do. I do. My gosh. Maybe the judges won't notice. I can just use my shirt. It's got nice spice on it. It's starting off very nicely. Oh, darn it. Start the time. Looks like an old boy with a cigar flame. No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, actually, this is some pretty strong smoke. Like it's got, meaning that it's got a strong character to it. You know, I would say more tobacco, more leather. There's no manure taste. There's no hay. Just nice tobacco, leather, spice, maybe a little black pepper. I would say cocoa, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Oh, man. So Rusty's asking, in the rules, are you allowed to wet the end or do a cold draw? I thought you said you couldn't. I probably did. I think I did say I couldn't, but you know what? I can't help myself. I would already be disqualified. You know, if you look at the photos from the finals in Croatia, those are some swanky looking guys, man. They look like some swanky guys. And actually I wonder because like here in the United States, you know, cigar smoking is a very egalitarian thing, right? Everybody smokes from any walk of life. But you know, when I travel to other countries and I'm smoking at cigar lounges and other places, it's not quite the same. It's like you go there and we can afford to smoke there because we're using dollars. But if I was working there and earning the money locally, I probably wouldn't because man, it's a different world. It really is. Like here, you'll go to a cigar shop and everybody's hanging out. But the cigar places to smoke in a lot of countries around the world are very fancy, like quite swanky, quite pricey, somewhat exclusive. And so when you look at the photos from this Croatia event, and then you see the list of prizes for the winners, or for the champion, man, it's like some pretty crazy like stuff that, like, let's look it up. Let's see. What do I have my notes here? What do I have for notes? Now they're out of order now. Okay, so here we go. Championship prizes. You get a gold decorated humidor that's handmade. You get a marble trophy that's made from the same marble that they use at the Split Palace in Croatia. You get a Cuervo y Sobrinos Swiss watch. And you get like a 24-hour cruise on this mega yacht. It's like 185 feet long. And it's some crazy, like, you're just like, wow, this is some baller stuff. And, you know, what else do they give you? So they give you an St. DuPont Golden World Championship lighter. There's only one. It's made out of gold, completely handmade. The yacht is a 180-foot seagull. It comes with private chefs, cigars, and it's 24 hours all-inclusive, and for you and up to 10 guests. You could probably pay for another day if you wanted, and I'm sure some of these guys probably do. I couldn't. They give you a writing instrument, not just a pen, but a writing instrument. Boveda humidor, bottle of spirits. They give you a cigar knife by Le Fin Lame, which is the only one made with gold for the World Championship. You get a ring, a World Championship ring. Rocky Patel V cutter, burn lighter, travel humidor, special World Champion humidor from Rocky Patel. And then you get a farm and factory tour down at, I guess, at his place in Nicaragua. Not bad, not bad. Or past 5 minutes. 4 minutes, 50 seconds. All right, almost there. I just realized my timer here is only 2 digits, so it'll just go to 99 minutes, and then it will exceed the world champ. It will not accommodate the world championship time. All right, for 5 minutes now. Back to drinking. So what's going on out in the world? What have you guys been up to this week? What are you guys smoking and drinking? Drop them in the comments. Let me know. I'm here solo tonight in my tuxedo. feeling quite fancy. Smoking a Rocky Patel cigar that I'm actually finding to be rather enjoyable. Oh yes, I saw your post about that, Rusty. Rusty says, still bummed that couldn't get to Nat Sherman. Rusty posted on what, Instagram today or yesterday, that they decided to close early because they ran out of product. That's really a shame. That was a really, really beautiful townhouse. I personally only got to go there once, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Really great. The guy, the salesperson that was showing us around, that greeted us, he took us on a big tour, took us downstairs, showed us the members' lounges and everything. Really lovely place. And what I really liked was how they had the little like seats kind of on those secondary levels and on the side that you could just sit there. I really enjoyed that, sitting there, because you get to see the whole pace of the shop. And I know that a lot of the people that were members there, they would like to go downstairs and be ensconced from that kind of thing. But personally, I liked, my first time there, so I wanted to see just how they did their operations. And yeah, it was a great place. It was a great place. It's a shame. It's a shame they're gone. But could be an opportunity to take over the space. Although there's this guy that I follow on YouTube once in a while, Louis Rossman, and he runs this data recovery, electronic repair. Like if you break your screen or you need your iPhone fixed or computer fixed, they do all that work. And he's got a shop in Manhattan, and he's been doing these videos where he's been going around the city, basically showing all the properties that are for rent and how they just haven't dropped in price. They're empty and everyone's failing and businesses are falling out of business and everything's going to hell. And like these guys are still asking $75,000, $100,000 a month. So it's crazy. Oh, Brian says, smoking like La Gloria Cubana and Scottish Smoke Padron 64, oh, 46, man. That's some fancy stuff right there. Nice. All right, we are now 88 minutes, and I'm smoking this much. I don't think that I'm going to make 3 hours. Okay, I'm gonna make 3 hours. I'm gonna go for 3 hours. Let's see here. Scott is sending a photo. Oh, there it is. Scott's got this 1964. Oh, yeah, looking good. All right, you're almost finished with your competition. That's just too fast. I'm still winning. Good, good. So, Rusty, you were saying the other day that Amy might be doing another show down here. If she does, are you going to come down as well? Like maybe come down on Thursday. We can do this and talk food and coffee and cigars. All right, I just want to smoke faster. Okay, I can't put it down. I have to hold on to it. All right, let's see. What other notes do we have for today about the championship? I'm really quite fascinated. Like, at one point I was thinking about seeing about driving up to New Hampshire to check it out. Maybe even to enter just for fun, right? Tony says it's burning pretty even for Rocky Patel. Even for Rocky Patel. Yeah, well, I wouldn't know because I don't smoke Rockies normally. But this one, yeah, so far, look at it. It's smoking pretty well. We're burning it pretty well. I'm trying not to smoke it too hard like I normally do. But it's very flavorful. I have to say that. I mean, it's a small cigar. And you know what? I think it's rather enjoyable. Even for me that likes a lot of these heavier, like more forceful cigars like the Tatuaje and the Roma Craft. or more of the subtle and spicy cigars like the Paul Gamerian and Maduro, as well as the PDR or A. Flores 1975 Maduro. Yeah, it's nice. Oh, let's see. How does it pair with the coffee? This coffee is just stellar. It's amazing. It pairs perfectly. It's good. It's good. It, you know, the coffee is, in many respects, you know, gives a lot of the kind of the cacao notes, and cacao and nuttiness are really more of the predominant features of the blend. So, and with a very light fruitiness to it. That's really meant to be low because I think it goes well with a lot of the tobacco flavors. So I think it's nice. It's nice. Okay, I can't put it down still. I can't put it down. A lot of rules. A lot of rules. All right, so we are now 12 minutes into it, and I have that much ash that I must maintain, because if I was to lose an ash now, I would have 15 minutes added to my, or 15 minutes deducted from the time. So I would be negative 5 minutes at this, or negative 3 minutes at this point. But since I'm the only one smoking tonight, I'm going to win. So have any of you guys gone out to see any movies at the theaters? I saw down here in Baltimore that I think the theaters had reopened, and I was thinking about going to watch 10A, that new Christopher Nolan movie. Looks kind of interesting, and I was going online at the Cinemark in Towson, and they have this whole, like, I'm sure this is true everywhere, but they have the seat map, and you can reserve your seats. And I noticed that as you reserved your seat, it would block off the next two seats on both sides. That's pretty cool. You know, actually, I kind of like that because I really like to go to theaters that are empty. So typically, I would like to go to the last showing of the night, even if it's 10:30 or 11:30 at night. I prefer to do that and stay until 2 in the morning because there's less people and I can be kind of alone. Oh, look at that. So here, if you look here, there's a little, I don't know if you can see that too well, but there's a little, see that little notch? I just noticed that in the ash. Good Lord, I don't know if I'm going to make it. 40 minutes. 40 minutes putting an ash. I still got another 25 minutes. I need to slow down. It's actually quite good. I'm actually enjoying the flavor. So slowing down is actually quite difficult. Beetle track. Oh, this is a Beetle track. Oh, I see. Oh, Beatles. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Beetle track. So I'm using. You may have noticed, like I have a monitor in front of me so I can see what's going on, and I'm using the camera that I'm using for the live stream is this new camera called the Sony ZV-1, and it has this thing called product showcase as a feature where if you put something in front of the lens, it will lock focus on that instead of on your face. So Canon and Sony both have these more facial recognition type autofocuses. So it's pretty much Sony uses the eyes. They lock onto your eyes. I think, Canon, I think, locks onto your eyes. Sony does something with the face, some kind of algorithm. So with the Sony, if you do this, it will lock on. And what you have to do, what it helps is to cover your eyes. It makes it work faster. At least I'm learning that now. Man, how did this guy do it for 3 hours and 26 minutes? I don't get it. I'm fearful that it's already going out. And now it's starting to dip a little bit, right? So when you have this dip, right? I've always kind of theorized that if I was to rotate the cigar so that the dip is below, the heat does the heat rise and burn this way? So Tony's smoking the HVC 500th anniversary. Wow, that's a lot. Okay. HVC, is that, I found out that Rocky Patel makes this cigar that has the H on the band. It's a red, white, and blue band that has an H. It was a Hirochi, I don't remember the name. I smoked it I did smoke that cigar when I was in Orlando last year at the Sosa Family Cigar Shop at Disney Springs. And that was pretty good. Uh-oh. It's starting to go out. All right, how are we doing? 17 minutes, 45 seconds. Halfway to the 40-minute mark, almost. Turn the uneven side to the top. All right, we'll try that. About now, I would try to blow through it, but that would be illegal. So I wonder if there's a judge, like, just wandering around, or maybe at your table, watching you, like, to see if you're doing anything, like putting it down, blowing through it, blowing on it to try to help it. Yeah, it feels like every time that I've been, I'm trying to smoke it slowly, but it feels like it wants to go out. Like there's no real smoke coming out of it now. And it really feels that I'm about to lose it. Oh, look at that. Just now, this beetle hole that you were talking about, Tony, some of the smoke is coming out of that. So I wonder if it's now starting to smoke unevenly and tunnel. There's nothing in the rules about that. All right, that is not a good thing. It's now really, it feels like it's seizing in the draw. Look at that. Try that again. Can you see that? It's kind of coming out of the hole. It's kind of coming out of the hole, and no longer are the sides burning. That's very disappointing. A beetle hole. Can you believe that? Oh, wow. Well, that's it. I'm done. 20 minutes, 36 seconds. And this sucker has died. So if this box had gone to the World Championship, and I was a competitor in the World Championship, my whole dreams of the 180-foot Seagull yacht would have just died now. Well, that sucks. 21-18, and it falls off. So I would now have not only would I be out of the competition at 21 minutes, 18 seconds, I would have ten minutes deducted. So my final time would be 11 minutes, 18 seconds. Yeah, George, that was definitely a letdown. You know what? And it was it's very much a letdown because I had always had this preconception of Rocky cigars being not worth it, right? And it started off with a lot of promise, like great amount of smoke, good flavors, good spice, very positive experience. And then that hole came in, it just killed the whole thing. That is a letdown. And the yacht, no yacht. I was going to call all these girls to come on the yacht and be there with the tux on the yacht and all these women get pictures for my Instagram. And those dreams are now dead. All right, let's have a look closer at the cigar so you can see, just so you get it is, not. So there was some tunneling, like I felt a little bit of heat as it was fighting against the dying of the light. I kind of want to cut into it. Let's get our trusty Zycar MTC multi-tool cutters and let's give it a cut and see. So I'm going to cut it right about here, just so we can see how. I'm going to cut it right where the lowest part of the burn line. Oh, that was an easy cut. So as you can see here, look at this. Okay, now you can see a little bit of the ash there in the center, and I don't know if it's coming through well on the feed, but you see some of the ash, then there's black, and then there's actually raw tobacco around the edge. So it really was tunneling into the center. There's actually even a gap, like a little hole right about here. It's hard to see, but right about there. Let's cut a little bit more down into it. Just a slight, little bit more. Okay, so let's look at that. Yeah, you can see it's definitely some tunneling going on. And then it just petered out. Oh. Although right here, I think I'm starting to see a little bit, like that's pretty much where it was. If I stick my finger on it, like the center of the roll of the filler feels taut. Around like a little point in the center, it's kind of hollow, and then you get the outer edge that's still intact. So that's. So Tony says that the age-limited rare was a decent smoke. George says also that, is there another cigar on tap? Well, I'm going to finish this out. I'm going to relight it. I mean, just because I lost the World Championship tonight in this bitter defeat doesn't mean we can't try to salvage the evening and continue on. Although, to answer your question, since it is a petite Corona, if we do run out quickly, I do have another one to go with too. So let's try again. Now I can do it the way that I like to do it. Thanks, Rusty. I appreciate that. Yeah, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but here, it is burning unevenly. That like the outer edge is getting the ash that's turning gray. The interior is still black because it is fallen in because it was burning through the center. The draw is good. I mean, the flavor, of course, now that it's a relight, has been diminished considerably. It's a little bit more acrid, a little bit more bitter, a little bit more char. Well, there was no char before, so it's not a little bit more. There's now the presence of char. I mean, it started out very nice, very, very nice. Now the relight is not as pleasant, not as pleasant. Maybe it's time to drink more. Maybe it's time to drink. Let's do a little drinking. Today we're going to do some Juarez Porto, white port, from Portugal. Where else would it be from? So my cousin Bob, a few weeks ago, he was at home during COVID, and I guess he called me or something. We're talking, and he's like, I was, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm drinking white port." What? And so I thought, oh, you know what? That'd be great to try. So we're going to make some white port. I need some ice. So some port in the coaster, because we're gentlemen here. You know it, George. You know it. Life gives lemon, but we make alcohol. Because we're going to drown our sorrows. How does this open? Do I need a knife? I need a knife. Let's see if the MTC tool or MTX tool has a knife of some sort that I can use to. No knife. Is there a knife? Well, there's a little opener. Oh, for God's sake. All right. Ouch. All right, MTX multi-tool to the win. All right, here we go, here we go. That looks good. And then I've got this fancy Fever Tree tonic water. And because it's fancy, it's not a twist top. Good thing the MTX has a bottle opener. Am I drunk already? Because I haven't even started to drink yet. There we go. Nice. All right, cheers, everyone. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's kind of like a fancy wine cooler. Good for formal drinking. All right, so let's see how the cigar is doing. Still lit. That's nice. So you know that bitter, acrid, charcoaliness has kind of dropped down. That's good. It's all messy now here. All right, anything else we need to talk about with this? So back to what I was about the cigar for a moment. So I read the reviews today on about the cigar from Half Wheel that they did back in April, as well as the Ministry of Cigars review that came out. Today's what, the 17th? Came out 3 days ago on the 14th. Both of them rated the cigars 91. You know, the early on, I could see that. But construction issues, that kind of brings it down a little bit. I mean, I don't really know. One of the things that I noticed that with people talking about cigar scoring, I don't really understand the criteria that they're using. For example, you know, since I do a lot of coffee work, and in the coffee world, we have a scoring system that technically is from 0 to 100. And most of the specialty coffee is, of course, a 70 and above. That's 70 is the designated cutoff for specialty, the minimum for specialty. And if you look at how we grade coffees for taste, there's actually very specific criteria. There's dry aroma, wet aroma, there's body, there's acidity. There's 10 different categories that we actually evaluate and score it accordingly, and then come up with a score. I haven't seen anything in the cigar world that really says anything about, you know, industry accepted criteria and grading for those criteria. So I'm not really sure. When people say 91 or they say 84, something like that, I don't really know what that means. Like Cigar Authority was talking just the other day about their score, about this kind of thing, about scoring and flavor, and they actually released a flavor wheel that came out. Well, maybe it was Cigar Journal that released the flavor wheel, but anyway, they were talking about how this one cigar got an 84, and that's like super low. And I was thinking of 84. You know, in the world of coffee, especially coffee, 84 is a hella good score. You know, if you're down at 81, 82, you're a little bit disappointed. 80, you're disappointed. Below 80, you're definitely disappointed, right? But 82, 83, 84, man, those are solid places to be. And for 84 in cigars to be like terrible, I don't really know. I don't really understand their grading system, their scoring system. So George Shem says, scoring in major publications revolves around how much you spend in advertising in many cases. Yes, I keep hearing about that with Cigar Aficionado. At least that's what the rumor is. But evidently, from what what they were talking about on Cigar Authority recently, and I actually listened to Cigar Authority not in succession, like kind of like I may miss like 2 weeks of their shows and then listen, and then I might start with the most recent one, and then then my podcast, the phone, will just jump back and forth. So I never really know. So what I'm telling you now, they could have talked about it on yesterday's release. They could have talked about it last month. I'm not really sure, but they were talking about how something like Cigar Journal is a bit more even and level in that respect. I don't know how true that is. I do find that like Half Wheels reviews to be pretty good. You know, as with anything, I think that as you read reviews by particular authors, and over time you tend to find out whether or not your palate agrees with that author's palate and their opinion. So I tend to find that some people I'll find better agreement, so that if they like something, then typically I might like it more, or I might like it as well. But to be honest, I don't really read reviews. I'm a little bit more narrow-minded in the fact that once I find cigars that I really like, I kind of stay with them. Like lately, it's been the Roma Craft Revenge. I kind of only smoke that for the most part. Which is why this show has been kind of enjoyable, because I'm intentionally going out for these programs to try different cigars that I haven't tried before. So, and I think we'll also want to stay with cigars that everyone can buy. That's not too esoteric. Like there's a lot of esoteric cigars that we can get that are aged for 20 years or something like that, or super rare stuff like the Partagas 150 from 1995. But what good does that really do? Just sitting around two guys talking about, hey, this is a great cigar or whatever it is, and well, either you can't get it or it costs some ridiculous amount of money. Tony says, Half Wheel usually highly rates the unobtainium. Yes, I agree with that. I agree. A lot of these guys will rate these unobtainium type cigars really high. And again, it goes back to, well, what does that do? So I've always tried so since we started this show, I've always wanted to get cigars that can be purchased, today. This I was worried about what might be the hard one to get, because I wasn't sure. I kind of read a blurb somewhere that said that this World Championship line is going to be part of their normal offering, so it should be pretty available. I was kind of worried that places like Raul would just have them as a fluke, or just got them from other sources and they would never have them again. But evidently, from what I've read, it's supposed to be available. Well, there we go. It's getting better. It doesn't have the same strength and pronounced flavors that it had at the very beginning, but now all of that acridity, the acridness, the bitterness, and what was the term I used earlier? The roast, not roasted, but the char. The char is all pretty much gone now, and it's just enjoyable. It's very smooth. I want to say creamy, but that would not be the right term for it. Maybe it's got a dry raisin kind of character to it. Maybe a light brown sugar. Maybe even a little bit of coffee note. So speaking of the cigars, if you look in the show notes below, I only have next week's cigar listed, mainly because I just haven't taken the time to go out to Raul's place to get the next round of cigars. For this one, I only bought 4 weeks worth. I should probably get more. That way we can know further out what we're going to be smoking. But yeah, this is not bad now. This is not bad. So George says, cigars are a pleasure item. Smoke what you like. Everyone's palate is different. Worst thing is a guy in a lounge trying to convince you the cigar they like is superior. Man, you know, George, I don't know if you may have seen this, but years ago, we used to hang out with Ron Furman, who owns Max's on Broadway. And Ron used to be really into cigars. And we have a whole crew that would hang out there. And every Thursday night, we would go down there and have cigars. And gosh, we'd be there probably till midnight or longer. Well, one of the guys that used to come down and hang out loved to bring a collection of cigars. Like he would bring them in a jar, a lot of Cubans, rare stuff, you know, stuff that was hard to get. And every week he would walk around. He would, if he sat next to you, you were just going to be subjected to a nonstop evening of, hey, this is my cigar. Look at this cigar. Look at this. Look at what I have here. Then he would go around with his jar, showing everybody, oh, look, I've got this. I've got this. I've got this. Not once would he ever offer you a cigar. And so finally, after months of this kind of thing, Ron finally came down on him and was like, hey, will you sit down? You keep doing this every week, and you never offer anyone, so just sit down and be quiet already. That was funny. That was funny. And the weird thing was that this gentleman, you know, I'm sure he's a really nice guy, you know. I think it's one of those things where people really get into their hobbies because, you know, maybe they just don't have a lot of friends. Maybe they just don't have a lot of social life. So I think he was one of those guys. But I actually knew him before he came to the Max's cigar night. I knew him because I would go to visit my friends in Hawaii every year. And we would hang out in Honolulu at a place called Havana Cabana. And this guy used to live in Hawaii. Like he was a military contractor. So he was based in Hawaii first. And he did the same thing there in Honolulu with all of my friends. And they all were like, oh my gosh, this guy, all he does is walk around with his box, show off his cigars, and never does anything with them. So I remember sitting at Max's the very first time he came, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this guy doing here? How did this even happen? I called my friends, and I was like, oh my gosh, you would not believe who is at my cigar night. Yeah, Mark. Mark, if you're out there watching by some chance, how are you doing, man? Ouch. It's not holding together very well. And it's burning my leather. Well, better to land on the wrist than on the shirt. The wrist will heal, the shirt will not. The Vanna White of cigars, yes, we went crazy. Yeah, ask any of the guys that were at the those old days at Max's on Broadway. Oh my goodness, they would tell you stories. So Tony says that check my phone. Smoke from the HVC. Here's the HVC that Tony's talking about. Oh, I'm on. Looking good, looking good. What does it say there? Limited edition. So what is this 500th anniversary? I don't understand. What's 500? 500 years? Years of what? That's the part I don't. I just thought it was a typo, 50 instead of 500. But Drop that in the comments. Yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. "500 years of the founding." Oh, founding of Havana. Ah, gotcha, gotcha. I'll have to try that next. So today, I went down to Service Photo, and I got me this Benro tripod, carbon fiber, only for 140 bucks. Not bad. It extends pretty high. What I've been looking for is, I know this is not really cigar related, but since we are on YouTube, I've been making more YouTube videos, and so I needed a tripod, especially when travel begins again. I needed a tripod to take with me because I would like to do more videos as I'm traveling now. I basically have missed the last 10 years of potential videos, mainly because, you know what, I just didn't want to take video. I was so tired of it. I was like, I don't want to do anything. I'll just take pictures. But now, 10 years later, I'm like, oh man, I should have taken video. So I needed something small because, you know what, I really hate. Part of the reason why I didn't take videos for a long time was because I hate to carry gear. Like, I want to travel as light as possible. But now that we're doing videos, I have to have some kind of camera. Like this ZV-1 that I'm using right now, it's really compact. Like, it's an internal lens, like a point and shoot kind of camera, and it's really small. Like you'll see this video on the channel in about maybe a week or two about IKEA. So I'm doing this video about IKEA coffee brewing stuff. And I was shooting like scenes in the different like IKEA setups. I wasn't really sure if they would allow that, so I was kind of doing it undercover. And the really nice thing about this Sony camera is that I could put it in my pocket, fully closed and ready to go. So really, I'm happy to try to shoot as long as it's compact. And this thing, like I was looking at this one, and there's a company called Three Legged, and they make this one that's anodized aluminum, and it's really kind of like attractive looking. It's got orange locking instead of the blue locks, and it's a little bit bulkier, but it looks really cool and really well made. Really, really, really well made. This one is 1.4 pounds lighter than that one and smaller. So my concern is that when I travel, my plan is to really just toss this in my check-in luggage because I really don't want to carry anything on the plane. I want to be as light as possible on the plane. And then just use this when I'm on location. And one of the things I don't want to do is like if it's bulky and heavy, chances are I'm not going to carry it with me. And so I decided to go with the Benro because it's really light. 2.2 pounds, so 1 kilo. And it's sturdy enough to carry the cameras that I'm using. So not only am I using that ZV-1 that we're shooting on today, but I also am using the Canon M50. And this is the heavier of the two. And I also have a 7200 millimeter lens that would be the absolute heaviest rig that I would ever use. And I tested both of the tripods today with them. And of course, compared to like a lot of other people's kits, this is all rinky-dink Mickey Mouse kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't even know why I brought that stuff down to try, because both tripods were more than capable of carrying either rig. And yeah, it comes with a ball head and the, what do they call it, the Alpha Swiss type of cam lock, so you can switch out from mount to mount. So if you're interested in looking for a lightweight tripod for your cameras, the Benro, it doesn't have like the three-legged guys, they have this, the other one's called the Punk Travis. Easy to pronounce, easy. This one has BL245, whatever. That just doesn't roll off the tongue. Or maybe it's written on here. It's the Slim TSL08C. There you go, TSL08C. And yeah, it's pretty good. One of the other guys, this guy Josh that works there, he was talking about it. He just got one himself and he loves it. So we're going to give it a try. All right, let's go back to the comments. Bernardo says, is that one of your bespoke shirts? Colin says they always look... Well, yes. To answer your question, yes, this is one of those shirts. This one is actually the what they call the Daniel Craig, the James Bond shirt. This one is made at their factory in Gloucester, England, and it is 3-button cuffs that has it's a what is it? Sea Island cotton, and it's actually got a pattern on it. And it's got like this textured like pattern. It's quite nice, and I did get it at Turnbull and Nasser about must be, oh wow, I think I ordered these originally in 2014, so 6 years old. I probably had this one for like 4 years, 5 years, using it 4 years. I don't use it very often because it's really it's really made for, well, since it was the James Bond shirt, I was like, well, let me make one that's for formal. But the problem was that when I was ordering this particular shirt, I didn't really think clearly. You know, because when you start with them, you have to order 6 at a time as your initial order. And, you know, you're going through books and books and books of fabric. It's just like, it's like if you're Jay Gatsby, you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, but it's overwhelming. Like you really, like, really, my friend Carm and I sat there at their boutique and at least 2 hours looking through these books of fabrics and trying to figure out which ones. And I'm glad she was there because she has much better taste than I do as far as finding shirts and patterns. So really, I kind of let her choose a lot of the pattern, the fabrics, because, you know, I don't know. I'm just a little bit like, huh? But this is the one that I did want. This is the Daniel Craig fabric that they use on his shirts. And so where it is different is that it does have the standard 3-button TNA cuff. And I did choose the collar, which is different than the one that Craig uses in the shows. But this one also, when I say I wasn't really thinking because I did delete the pocket. But I totally escaped me when I was thinking about it. And I knew I was going to use it in a formal situation. But the idea of like cufflinks and studs had totally for whatever, just didn't even think about it. So there's no French cuffs and there's no stud holes. So to me, when I use it in this way, I'm slightly irritated because I forgot to put the studs. The French cuffs aren't that big of a deal, but you know, it would have been nice to have the French cuffs. But you know, that's neither here nor there. All right, so Brian says, I love those 2004 VSGs. Well, that's because you are the VSG whisperer. In you know, there's actually no one that I know more than Brian that actually knows anything about VSGs and like how to pick them out, how to taste them cold, and know that this is the box that you must buy. And the rest are crap. This is the one. That is very impressive, I think. Oh, see, it's gone out again. Too much talking. Would have been totally eliminated from this competition. I would never even made it past the qualifying rounds. But if you like shirts and stuff, I do watch this one guy on YouTube. His name is Kirby Allison, Kirby Allison. And he runs this thing where he runs this channel. He's from Dallas, and he's really, really into like shirts and suits, dressing and shoes and all of that bespoke and like fine living. He bought himself recently a really nice espresso machine for his office, and he smokes like Cuban cigars. I think he went off to Davidoff and like hung out with the owners of Davidoff or something like that in London, and smoked there. And so, if you're interested in following a guy on YouTube, he's really quite good, or he's quite interesting. He's one of those guys that seems to me like he's a little bit quirky, right? Like if you were hanging, I feel like if I was hanging out with him in real life, he'd be a little bit awkward. But he really is really into it. So like, you know, I do go to his channel to see like shoe shining videos, and he's really into like Saphir shoe care products. So if you ever have any interest, that's one thing to check out. And then I just found this other guy. What is it called? I can't remember his name. I'll try to remember to put the things in the description below. But he has this channel. There's this other guy that's really, he's a German guy that does, you know, videos about men's stuff, shaving, but really one of the big things is shaving that I saw. You know, like I tend to use these, you know, cartridges, right? Like the Mach 5 or whatever that is. And I've gotten away from like, you know, using the Badger's hairbrush and the bars in favor of these this particular cream from the United Kingdom. That's really, really like not lathery, but really, really slick, right? And you add a little bit of water to it, it really becomes slick again. But this guy, he's talking about straight razors, not straight razors, but using double-edged razors. The ones you get in the little pack that you slide out. And he says that gets a better shave, closer shave, better quality, much cheaper. It's like $1 for the pack. But the other side of it is that, you know, if you get the handle's like $70 and up. So you pay a lot for the handle, but you pay almost nothing for the blades. So I've been thinking about trying to check that out. I just don't want to. I just want to spend like $100 on a razor handle. But that seems interesting. Yeah, the safety razors, exactly. And Brian uses the cheapest razor Costco sells. But he was saying that the cheapest razor Costco sells, or any of these cheap, are still pretty expensive compared to doing it this way. He even has a breakdown on his videos about how much it costs comparatively to everything else. But yeah, you know, I think he's right, because I look at the whenever I've gone to replace, like I buy the cheap ones that I think they're like 4 blades or 3. Maybe there's only 3 blades. It could be 5. I don't know. They're like a gray and orange handle, and they're not very expensive. They're pretty cheap. But even then, they're still like $12, $13 for like 5 of them, 5 cartridges. So I still think that's expensive. I don't know why I think that's expensive, but I just feel like it is. All right, I'm getting closer to the band, which would be the official time. So right now we are an hour, coming up on an hour since I started this cigar. Had I had no problems, I'd still be nowhere near the world champion. Nowhere near. I would have to go to the qualifying round and hope to God that everybody else smoked faster than me. Then I could make it to go to Croatia. What I'm not clear on, though, like, for example, if you, like, you may not know, some of you may not know this, but I do judging for coffee competitions around the world. And so the organization that I judge with, when I go to a country and we have a competition, a championship, and we name a championship for that country, that barista will then go to the world championship. Now, the organization that's running the national championship, it's part of their responsibility to send that champion to the world. So they will pay for the flight, they'll pay for transportation, hotels, and the meals. They may or may not give them per diem or not. I'm not really sure, but they do take them there. So, but I was wondering, like, if you win a qualifying round to this, does that mean they will send you to Croatia? That's something they don't really specify here that I haven't I didn't think about it till now, but I haven't seen anything in my reading on it that says whether or not they would or not. But I'm also thinking that, based on who some of these world champions are, and it seems like a lot of these champions seem to be guys of good means, so maybe not. Ooh. This blend of white port and tonic waters, that's pretty good. Refreshing, citrusy, the quinine, good. So Tony says Saphir is the gold standard. Yes, I agree. I've got a few of their products. I was just down at Vito's Leatherworks in Falls Church, maybe about a month or so ago, and Steve gave me one of the Saphir hard waxes. I was having some shoe work done, repaired by him, and he was like, "Hey, try this." I said, "All right." They even make a lot of different brushes that are like for all kinds of specific purposes. Like getting into the groove of the sole. There's a place in DC called what is it called? I went down to this. It's in Georgetown. They have an outlet in Atlanta that I've also been to. Again, another one of these places that's very much into men's clothing. They even do like their own tailoring work. I can't remember the name, but it's kind of a matching. The women's and the men's stores have matching names, complementary names. So Tony, how'd the work boots turn out? They're a work in progress, So I have these old boots that I had redone. Over a year ago, I sent them down to Falls Church to have Steve do them, and it took a while. And I went down on, what was it, July 25th? I think it was July 25th I went down there. Yeah, it was July 25th because I dropped them off July 12th, 2019, and I went to pick them up on July. He sent them to me about a year, earlier in July. And then I tried them on, and they were too tight, too narrow. And one of the things, these were shoes that were perfectly fitting when I left them with him, and they were just way too narrow, way too tight. And it was he actually did a complete rebuild on it. So, reconstructed the uppers, redid all the soles, redid the bed, redid the cork, redid everything. And so it's essentially a new shoe. But of course, when he's making it from whatever last he has. He doesn't have a last that's of my own foot. So it's going to be a little bit off. So I brought it back down to him. We talked, and he's going to make some alterations to it. And I was supposed to go back the next week, but I just haven't had the time to go down. So I might go down the next 2 weeks to go see how it's come along and see where we are. And it's one of those things that's kind of like a work in progress. It just takes time. All I can say is that I'm glad I paid for it last year, because this year would have been, much more difficult this year. So how about you, Bernardo? What are you smoking out there? I know you're probably sitting outside smoking. So I was at Bernardo's house early this summer. He showed me this video about this guy named Evan Funky. Evan's a chef out in Los Angeles that is basically a sfolino. And the sfolino is basically a pasta artisan, as they would be known in Italy. And he learned this style of making pasta in Bologna, where he makes everything by hand. makes the pops by hand, and then rolls it out by hand with this 40-centimeter mattarello, which is basically this big, long, thin rolling pin. No machinery, so no imperial, pasta machine, no arcobaleno extruder, just all by hand, making fusilli, making all kinds of. I think they said in the video that out of the 300 plus known pasta shapes, he can do 186. Good Lord, this guy's crazy. So we started I watched this video and I was like, man, this guy is wild. And I just happened to, after watching the video, like 3 or 4 days later, I happened to be at the store and there was this guy, Evan's book called American Sfollino. I was like, oh my gosh, well, I gotta buy it. So I bought the book. And inside he details a little bit more about this mattarello. So I've been trying to find it with via some friends that are connected in Bologna. So far, we haven't had much success. However, the other component is what they call the tagliere. The tagliere is basically the work surface, right? It's a wood work surface. And in the book, he specifies that what he likes to use is what's called Baltic birch. So if you see this leather top that I'm using right here on this video, this is you may have seen it on my channel. There's a video called Building a Height Adjustable Desk. So I'm working on this project where I'm building this desk that will be height adjustable, and it's going to be leather wrapped. This is the leather for the desk. I featured it in the video as well. But I needed, this is a stainless steel table, and so I figured, oh, let me do something a little bit nicer so that it's a little bit more nice for the video. And I just laid it over this. But anyway, so I needed to get this the material for the desk. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I should use MDF. But I was concerned with MDF, like, even though it's a desk, there's always a chance that I eat at my desk and I drink at the desk. So there's always a chance that I could spill stuff on it, and maybe it'll soak through the leather, the hide, and somehow, compromise the integrity of the MDF. And MDF is medium density fiberboard. So I was talking to Josh over at Free State Timbers, which is a local specialty wood shop. And Josh was like, well, man, you should maybe use Baltic birch plywood. Oh, well, perfect. So I said to him, okay, here's what I need. This is the dimensions that I need for the desk. And this is what I could use for a tagliere. And he's like, yeah, no problem. We get 5x5 sheet, cut that out, no problem. I was like, perfect. So now